As a Catholic, I often get the same question from non-religious individuals, which is, why does God allow bad things to happen in this world? If God exists, why do unfortunate things like disability and evil, and such as, the super wealthy, they just get even more wealthy for doing what we would see as very, very corrupt things, right? Why do these kinds of hardships and evil exist in the world when God exists? Why does God permit or allow these things to happen to both just the world and to specific individuals? Just really briefly, I had a coworker one time who was, atheist, but he asked that very, very question to me, and it got me kind of thinking because I don't quite know the answer to this question, but it is a very, very commonly used question by atheists and by non-religious individuals. Well, if God exists, then why does evil happen? So that's kind of the first question I want to ask for today. Why is there evil in this world?
Well, that's a little bit different question. Why there is a evil, or why the bad things happen to the people? Which one is it then?
Let's go with that
Because those are
second
two
one,
questions.
actually. Let's go with that second one. Why
Why the bad things happen?
why do bad things happen to people?
Really, I cannot give you 100%, answer. Nobody can, right? We never can understand what exactly was God's purpose for certain happenings in our lives, and we can only kind of maybe infer, using the scriptures and using our experiences from the life and so on. But so just to say that up front, it's impossible, right? But as I said, we can infer, we can somehow, try to make a common sense from it. And I would say, and a lot of theologians and a lot of psychologists, kind of who are spiritually oriented, kind of agree that it is important. The bad things are important in our lives, I guess, even though that we don't want them to happen. The negative things in our lives help us to grow, as a human beings. Mm-hmm. We learn the most, really, we learn the most from the negative things. If the mother tells the child, hey, don't touch the hot stove because you're going to burn the finger, well, the child probably will not listen, will try at least. But if the child going to touch that hot stove and will burn his or her finger, then the child will not touch the stove again, ever.
Right, they learn their lesson.
Learn the lesson from the negative, right? From the bad thing, from the burning the finger, right? Mm-hmm. So that's kind of, the example of it. And I was thinking many times myself, because I know it's very easy to kind of discuss it and talk about it. Oh, it's important, yeah, we learn, so on, blah, 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 right? But in reality, really, when it actually happens in a life, and when it happens over and over and over, it's really painful. And many times doesn't make any sense. Kind of like the present situation, right? Me, myself being, retired and living on a fixed budget and already have, I don't want to say trouble, but a little concern about, financial situation, right? Mm-hmm. Yeah. And now, as we talked about yesterday, having that out of the blue debt, which came completely out of nowhere, right? That completely, it threw that proverbial monkey wrench
Mm-hmm.
in right away. And I was wondering too, like, I mean, why really God? Like, did I really needed that? Am I going to learn anything from it? What was the purpose of this? I already have enough financial, difficulties. Why did I need this additional one?
Right.
And such a large one on top of the other problems, not financial ones, But, you know, really being angry about it, that going to change anything? Not really. At the end, we have really only two choices. Either we're going to quit, right, or completely derail, or we're just gonna keep going to do the
Okay,
right
but
thing, whatever we chose, originally. So, right.
right.
So I know it doesn't answer your question, right?
Y-
But it just happens, right?
right.
Now there is, additional things with that. So the bad things happens, God knows already 100% why. We will never know 100%, but we can just assume that, it's just for our spiritual growth. Now, that's some of the things which are completely out of our hands. Now, why, probably you would probably ask right now, so, okay, so why, mostly the bad things happen to the good people,
Mm-hmm.
right? And why the bad guys usually are pretty lucky with everything.
Right. Yeah.
Well, that is kind of, and again, you can kind of use that spiritual realm, and again, say like, hey, God doesn't want to, spoiled, or whatever, good guys. But I would say more like, hey, the bad guys, they are really, making decisions in their lives based on their selfish, you know, really nefarious reasons.
Yeah. Selfish desires or motives.
Exactly. And the good people, they make their decisions on the good reasons,
Mm-hmm.
because they want to protect their character. They want to be still good people for whatever reason, right? So they're making a right decision. And sometimes, making that good decision, the right decision, comes, stipulations that, hey, you're going to probably pay, for making the right decision in your life. I don't know, give you an example. Let's say that somebody, spoke the truth, right, about certain actions in your life, right? But
Right.
because wanted to be honest, right? But because of that, that person loses a lot of friends.
Mm-hmm.
Well, that is the negative effect, right? But and again, what is more important? Having the friends which are, based, on lie, or be honest with yourself. So you can say too, well, bad thing happened to the person, but it did. However, it helped that person grow, right? And that was purely right there, decision made by that person, not some coincidence in life and so on.
Mm-hmm.
So there is, as I said, so it's two different ways, right? One of these we cannot completely affect, right? Completely out of our hands, and we can just guess why the bad things happen, right? The second sets of happenings, like the bad happenings in life, is, many times because right people, wants to do right things in their lives, and they don't really care, that it's going to have negative effect because they want to make the right thing, right decision.
Mm-hmm. The right choice
Can
is
that answer
sometimes
the question a
the
little bit?
hardest one.
Yeah,
It
yeah.
partly does.
So yeah,
I do want to circle back a little bit,
sure,
because
sure.
obviously, as you mentioned, there's really not a describable reason as to why certain uncontrollable hardships happen, such as like disease or disability. Um, I guess we could kind of speculate a little if there is
Mhm.
something uh, something to gain from it, because I do have a couple of, I guess, ideas or theories as to why those kinds of hardships do exist.
Well, hardship again is important. Look, we discussed, I give you another one, right? Because the examples are always the best. We discussed, a few times ago that how is it possible that the most advanced countries, not just now, but talking about like for hundreds of years, were usually in the environments where life was really tough. Like, for example, the Sweden, Norway, up, up in Northern Europe, where really people were at least, fighting hard just to survive, right? Long winters, cold, really nefarious weather, and pretty tough. I lived over there myself for quite a long time, so I can tell you, like really, long gloomy winters, a lot of rain during the springtime, summer, as well as the fall. Always cloudy, like really the sunshine. To see the sunshine is like once, twice, every 10 days, if you get lucky, and so on, right? Compare, for example, with the south, right? We're talking about Italy, Spain, Greece, where the weather is very, very pleasant and it's really sunny and warm. Winters are not very bad actually over there, if there is any, really, but you can really see that, okay, so at the Northern Europe, people are struggling, hardship and so on, but they are very prosperous. They're doing very well. The people are very hardworking there, very diligent. They're doing very well. A lot of companies, a lot of big companies are coming from the Northern Europe, right? Compared with the South, it's actually the opposite, South is kind of like, let's take a siesta, like, hey, don't work very hard, like, I'm not saying that, the Southern people are lazy, but definitely that lifestyle is much slower over there, and so is the, the productivity in their lives. And so now you can really see, visibly that, hey, that hardship actually, maybe there is something behind it, maybe something good about it. So, and and same thing, for example, you can say about the kids too. Like one day when you have a kids, you will see yourself that, hey, you're going to realize that, hey, when I was easy on my kids, and I'm kind of forgiving all the time and just taking it really easy, my kids, like, don't learn anything, really. And when I was really hard, I could see that actually my kids are learning and actually getting something from my instructions and the wisdom I'm trying to give them and the directions I'm trying to, put in their lives and so on. You're going to realize too that it's like, hey, the tougher one, it's sometimes better than actually the easy one. I mean, the tougher way is always better than the easy way, and so you can go on and on and on. So that's how it is, So
I guess to kind of build on that, I mean, I usually I notice that people that have like disabilities, like that they're born with or that they acquire throughout somewhere in their life, or not acquire, that's probably the wrong terminology, inherit. They tend to view the world and their life in a much different way than the average person does, and usually for the better. Like people that are like, I know, like people that are with with Down syndrome, right? You would say like that's really painful. It's really, really harsh and unfortunate. But the thing is, those individuals, I mean, they enjoy their life probably more than people that don't have Down syndrome, right? I've never seen them really ever, complain about being depressed or things like that. That you'd see people that are just physically fine would have, or they don't have that issue. People that are they were maybe veterans and they lost a limb or something like that, they tend to almost kind of take it a little bit in stride. Like they enjoy life, they enjoy the outdoors, even if their mobility isn't good, right? Even then, they still somehow seem to enjoy life, and even sometimes face the hardship. They almost kind of welcome it, because it strengthens them and makes them morally stronger. And I've noticed that people that tend to be, they have these immense hardships that, again, there's nothing really much they can do about it, right? They can't really control it. They can't get rid of it. They also tend to be the ones of better character. And I do think, to a certain degree, as you kind of mentioned, that when people they don't experience this hardship, right? Not only is it they're just not as productive, but they just seem to have a very, very worse point of view of the world. They can't enjoy their life and the world around them for what it is, as much as at least people that have experienced these hardships do. They almost treasure everything that comes to them.
I gotta, say that, I really kind of disagree with you. I'm not saying that every single person, who, for example, because I met some, due to my work, I met some disabled veterans. It doesn't mean that they are happy, really, about, I mean, generally they're trying, but trust me, they have a hard time to deal with their issues as well, and it takes a lot of adjustments to make in their lives. Now, you mentioned it, the disabled and so on, like from the birth, like mentally disabled and so on. That's something, again, that's a little bit different situation. But I would say, I would agree with you that generally, right, the people who are disabled right from the beginning, right from the get-go, right at the birth, definitely, because they didn't lose anything. They were born as such, right?
Yeah, I
Born
was
without a sight,
referring to
born
generally
blind.
speaking.
Yeah. So there's a difference being born blind or to lose the sight. Difference being born deaf and lose the hearing later in life, right? That's the two different people we're really talking about, right? Somebody's being actually with that all life, doesn't know what the person's losing, and the other one. But I would say, to say, to answer that one, because you were asking, like they are, you were saying that they are maybe generally happy. Let's say, yeah, I kind of agree with certain, certain people. Well, I would say probably expectations, right? When I look at myself as a kid, when I had to listen to my parents and do what they tell me to do, and I was limited on free time, limited on resources, and so on. I mean, talking about like how much money I can spend, the things I could buy or could not, and so on. I think I was probably more. I would say I was probably a little bit more stress-free than when I became the adult, when I actually had more freedom and so on. And I think that generally most of the people, they can say the same thing. You can probably say the same thing too, that your life is more stressful now when you have more freedom, more resources in your disposition. You actually understand more things and you can do more things on your own. With all that, all those advances, you made throughout your life, in your couple decades, you can definitely say that I'm sure that you are living, with less worries, less problems, less, all these negative things when you were, a child, right? Yeah, because you expected less, from their life. And I think the expectation, that's the biggest thing, which kind of destroy, what we already have. Because a lot of things, they have already so many things in their lives, but they expect more. And just because of that, we losing actually, the perception of what we actually have. Look how many people, how many guys, they have pretty good wives, right? But just because that wife is not 20 years anymore, is, their eyes start wandering and they're looking for some younger girls, around. How many of us, do that, right? And they don't see that, well, yeah, okay, maybe you can find somebody younger, but definitely, I can tell you right now, you're not going to find anybody better, because that wife, which stuck with you for 10 plus years or so,
There's loyalty
she
and
already
there's
knows.
respect.
Yeah, yeah, she already knows you. You are adjusted towards each other. You're really clicking already somehow. To a certain degree at least. But you cannot say that about that young, 18-year-old. You see on the street just because she is younger, look more fresh and more beautiful.
Mm-hmm.
It doesn't mean that she's going to be a better partner in your life, right?
Right.
So we should be happy for what we have.
Yeah.
Just okay. That having that house, with a 3-bedroom is not the same thing like having the mansion somewhere, on a beach. But it doesn't mean that if that person would have the mansion, right, that's going to make him more happy or make her more happy.
Right.
Right. A lot of actually wealthy people, I just kind of what I heard, because I was never really wealthy. But a lot of wealthy people, they are actually thinking many times that they would be more happy having less in their lives and living more simple, existence,
Mm-hmm.
with less stress in their lives, less attention on everything, what they do, and so on, because everything comes with the strings attached, right? Everything. There's always stipulations. You're not going to get the good things in a life without any strings attached to it. So the more stuff, more good things we have and so on, the more strings attached and less actual freedom we have at the end. So,
Mm-hmm. Well, definitely, this is an issue a topic, I should say, that we might revisit. Because obviously there does seem to be a little bit of a disagreement on some things, but generally speaking, I see your point. So we might revisit this subject in a later episode, but we will have to wrap it up for right now. So that'll be it for this week. In the next episode, we'll be talking about what to do when leadership in the church goes awry, when it does some things that are not traditionally done. If you have any questions, feel free to send them to us, as we may answer them in a future episode. We'd appreciate it if you could follow us on all social media. And until next week, thanks for listening, take care, and God bless.
Godspeed.